What's going on, guys? Today I want to talk to you guys about selecting the right jerkbait for wintertime fishing. Now, everybody knows that once we get into the colder months, fishing gets slow. But there is a bunch of different tricks and ways that you can still catch fish. And today I want to talk about catching those fish on a jerkbait. Now, selecting the right jerkbait can be tough because once we get into the cooler months, your jerkbait selection matters even more. Your action, how fast, how slow you work that bait, your colors, line size, everything matters even more in the wintertime. You know, those fish are going to be real lethargic. Most of the time you're going to have clearer water, and those fish are getting a long time to look at your bait. So everything that you select in the wintertime matters when it comes to jerkbait fishing. And today I'm going to share a couple tips, a couple baits to hopefully help you out in selecting the right one to go out there and catch fish in the wintertime. So let's get to it. So the first thing I like to do is I break up the winter in two different sections. And what I mean by that is I take those, first handful of weeks when you're transitioning from the fall to the winter time. And this is when you get a lot of just random cold fronts. The weather's real unstable, but the water temp is still, it's just slowly coming down. And then you've got your other section that it's stable. The water temp's as low as it's gonna get. Your weather pretty much stays the same unless you live down here in the south and we get crazy weather all the time. But still, that second period in the wintertime, you have more stable conditions than you would in that first transition period. So in the first part of winter, when you're still having dropping water temps, I like to throw a bait that's going to have a little bit more action than my, really cold condition jerkbaits. And the one I like to throw is the Berkeley Stunna. This is the 112. This bait right here is a bait that I'm going to have tied on the front of my boat all winter long. And the reason for that is how versatile this bait really is. If you put this bait on 12-pound line, it's going to run in that 5 to 6 foot range. But you can work it as fast as you want or as slow as you want. And what's cool about this bait is, for one, it casts like a dream. It's got an internal transfer system in it. It casts a mile. And what I love about it is when those fish are really aggressive, I can be as quick as I want to be, not even pausing that bait for a second. And this bait will roll and hunt and dart and do all kinds of crazy things. But then when you get into the heart of winter and those fish are acting more lethargic, you can slow this guy down and only rip them once or twice and let them pause for however long you want. And this bait will have a slow sink to it, which is killer in the heart of winter. Then if you have one of those bright sunny days and it's all of a sudden 10, 15 degrees warmer outside, you can pick this bait right back up and get aggressive with them. And that's just awesome to me that one bait can do basically it all. Now, when you get into, once your water temp, stabilizes and you're going, all the days are about the same, the heart of winter, I like to transition into a jerkbait that is really fine-tuned and is just gonna dead stick after I rip that bait. And that's gotta be the Megabass Vision 110. This bait is absolutely insane. Straight out of the box, jerk this thing down, same depth, about 5 to 6 foot, and this bait does not move. It has a perfect stance in the water. And for me, this is really key when you're in the heart of winter. And the reason is those fish are going to see that jerkbait, and if it's paused right there in front of their face, they have more time to come up there and look at it. But this jerkbait never moves. So this is a key jerkbait for me in that period of time. Now, there's going to be certain days that they don't want a bait to sit there and not move. And if you looked at a shad in the wintertime, he barely moves, and then all of a sudden he has a slow sink to him. What's unique about the Berkeley Stunna is this bait has a slow sink to it. Now, I know I just said that I use this bait more erratic, but what's cool about this bait is that if you slow your cadence down, you know, rip, pause, and rip, pause, and just count at 5, 7, 8 seconds even, this bait will slowly sink just like a dying shad. Then you jerk them again and it'll come up and have a slow sink to them. And there are days that those fish are keyed in on that slow sink. And so this Berkeley has quickly become one of my all-time favorites just because of how versatile this bait is. The other scenario you have is those fish being a little bit deeper and not wanting to travel very far for a bait. And that's when I go to the Megabass Junior +1. And this is just a smaller version of the 110, still 3 treble hooks, but it's going to dive another foot to even 2 foot, depending on your line size, deeper than the standard 110. This bait is a killer option when you're in those brutal cold days. The fish are a lot deeper and they're not wanting to travel very far for a bait. I like to drop down and throw this Junior +1. You know, it's going to get down there in 7, even 8 with 10-pound fluorocarbon. And that bait has really been a killer for me in those situations. Now, I'm going to circle back around to colors, because colors matter a ton to me in wintertime jerkbait fishing. My go-to colors are just going to be your natural matte colors, if you would, you know, a flatter color. Like this is the matte shad from Megabass. It's just a real subtle, dull color, and those can be really good in your, you know, little bit overcast days, maybe, you know, some higher winds, stuff like that. Now, when you have maybe a brighter day and a little bit calmer conditions, I like to throw more of, you know, your flashier colors. I don't have one with me, but something like a translucent with a, you know, gold or silver, something like that that's going to put off a little bit more flash. Now, a trick that I learned when you're on a good jerkbait bite. So say you went out there and you have established the jerkbait bite on a standard, you know, natural color. Try picking up something bright like this right here, a chartreuse bottom with a purplish blue back. Throw this in those same areas, and a lot of times those bigger fish will react to that brighter, bold color. That's a really good tip. Now I want to circle back and talk about hooks, line, rod, that kind of stuff. I'm a big fan of upgrading my treble hooks on all of my treble hook baits. And on the Megabass, it is a little bit tougher to get the right weight hooks for the Megabass jerkbaits, because this bait is so fine-tuned that if you're too heavy or too light of a hook, you mess up the action of that bait. So what I'm going to do is I will link the exact replacement hooks that I use on both Megabass, the Junior and the full-size 110. I'm going to link that below so that you guys can see the exact replacement hooks for that bait. Now, I have not fooled with the Berkeley hooks, and if you've ever thrown any Berkeley treble bait, you know that it comes stock with the Fusion 19 hooks. I'm a huge fan of these treble hooks. They're super strong. These are light wire hooks, but I've had no problems bending these guys out. Super sharp, super sticky hooks. As of right now, I don't mess with this bait at all. Straight out of the box, it's ready to go. Now, line size, 90% of the time, I'm throwing seaguar 12-pound straight fluorocarbon. If I think that those fish are getting a little line shy, or I need to get the max depth out of my baits, I will drop down to 10-pound, but that's as low as I go. Reel, I like the 70 size reel just because I have a little bit smaller hands and it's easier for me to palm it and work that bait all day. I usually throw it in a 7.2 or 7.3 to 1, something around that range. And the rod, I personally use a 610 medium rod. And I know that there's guys that like a 7-foot or even shorter. I would say if you're new to jerkbait fishing, I would go with something more like a 6.8 or a 6.10 medium. And just start playing around until you get comfortable and want to go to a bigger rod. But the 6.10 medium, and I'll link a couple of my selections of rods in the description. But the 6.10 medium for me has been a perfect jerkbait rod for me. So that'll wrap up this video. Like I said, everything I've mentioned today will be in the description below. So feel free to go in there and look at exactly what I've talked about in this video. If you got any questions or any other jerkbaits that you might like to throw in the wintertime, please drop a comment and I'll comment back and we can maybe post another video and maybe we got some new jerkbaits that I need to talk about. But thank you for watching. I hope you like this video. Subscribe and be watching because I got a lot of content fixing to be coming out every week of fishing tips, fishing videos, everything. Thanks.